Hello there. Today, I look forward to this little chit chat about how what is old or what was old is new again. It's been coming up so much over the course of the last at least 2 or 3 years, and I will explain more as we go along. Hello, my name is Patricia, for those of you who are joining for the first time. And I am so happy to be here to talk about all those things that encompass us being a whole person, not just our work, not just our families, but the communities that we live in, and those personal goals that we all have for each other. And I call that celebrating you like completely. So as this evolves, we're going to talk about celebrate you conversations is where we're headed. But for today, let's get to this. How what is old is new again. So I have been in the midst of a pivot for at least 18 months. I've been talking about that. And as I engage, the tendency is to treat yourself as if, like, oh my God, I'm starting from scratch. Like, this is all new. And I have to remind myself that that's not true, right? Rarely are we really starting from scratch. And even though I've been doing this for up 10 years, I have had multiple careers where I have pivoted, where I've taken on some new duties or responsibilities, but never am I truly starting from scratch. Even when I went out on my, in 2010, I guess it was, when I went out on my own, not voluntarily, uh, and realized, okay, I guess I got to do this. There were things that I didn't know, about setting up the business structure and how to go get clients and things like that. But the core of who I am, like, I know what I'm capable of. I know my background, all of those things. And we'll talk some more about how that plays into it. So the thing is that when I started out back then, I didn't I wasn't affiliated with anyone. I went out on my own, like literally. And I grabbed up a couple of clients and I was just winging it. I had some good people who I talked to. I had my own little personal mastermind group of folks who I had consulted. But literally, in doing the day to day, I did not know what that was supposed to look like. So I had to create it for myself. And so one of the things that I did that later became like the crux of the relationship building content that I've been putting out over the course of the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years was I had moved into a building, one of those co-working spaces. It was a nice space. I had a nice space. And but I was in an office to myself, and each of the other people on the floor, they were all independent. And there was not necessarily something to like connect us together. And that because that wasn't the point. And so yeah, I could, interact with some of them, but we weren't all doing the same things. Some folks were doing a completely different business structure. I was doing lobbying and legislative work at the time still. So that meant that all of that relationship stuff that happens naturally when you're in an office building, I had to recreate for myself. There was no running into someone at the water cooler, that old little saying. There was no running down the hall to go check with someone, like, hey, what do you think? And then having it some other little conversations that then end up, leading to other things. I had to create that environment for myself. I had to create that interaction. So what I did, and I still have the journals to prove it because I documented this for, I would say months, but probably years, where I decided, okay, if I want to make sure that I can have a continuous flow of connecting with people, then there's some things I need to do. One of them was making sure that I uh, utilized LinkedIn, which was not nearly as popular as it is now. So I was using LinkedIn long before people were engaged on the platform, and I was using it to connect with people. I called it my electronic Rolodex because that's literally what it was for me. And so I would connect with people through there. And I had a goal of making sure that there were, what was it, like, I don't know, 15, it was a lot. I was going to say 15 people a week, but that's not right. I think it was, more like 10 or 15 people a day. It was very aggressive. So that sounds more right. Um, so actively going and connecting with people there. I also would, I had the goal of making sure that I um, uh, set up 3 to 5 coffees or lunches per week because that helped get me out and staying in front of people. And there was one other metric that I had. Oh, I think it was like writing notes. So that was another thing. Writing notes, whether it was handwritten notes or emails, I had a number associated with that per week. Per week. This is what I was doing with the daily outreach of, like 15 people or something like that, Monday through Friday. So that was always my thing. And that's how I kept the flow of connections and staying relevant. That's how I kept it going. And when there were quiet weeks, I knew, I was like, wait, it's kind of quiet right here. Like, what's going on? I could always literally trace it back to my connections journal and identify where I had let up. Let's say maybe because of a project that I had been working on, or let's say, my kids were little back then, so somebody was sick, something, or I was sick. So I could trace it and I always knew where to pick things up again. All right. I'm telling this for a reason. So that was a practice that I did. And then over the years, I continued the practice, but I didn't have to be so legalistic about it, right? I wasn't necessarily tracking it by hand on paper because it becomes such a habit for me. I could literally do it practically, like in my sleep, literally, but also just keeping up with things in my brain, informally keeping notes. So I would, do that, making a note of like, hey, I need to go reach out to these people this month, this quarter, whatever it might be. Until it just really became kind of old hat. I wasn't doing it as hardcore as I had been before, but I was still doing it. And I still do it to today, right? But not at the level from when I started. Now, fast forward to today, when I am watching a Casey Brown video. Check her out on LinkedIn. She's tells phenomenal stories and the work that she does. So I follow her and I'm watching one of her YouTube videos where she's interviewing a woman who is talking about literally some of the same things I did. She has some different tactics, but the concepts were the same about using the tool, the platform, as a tool to connect and setting markers for yourself to do it over days, weeks, whatever it might be. It's a very fascinating story. And I was sitting there and I'm like, yeah, I do that, or I've done that. And I was like, ding, ding, ding. So it's not that it was necessarily, it's newer for them, but me coming to it all these years later, I was like, yeah, I was doing that 20 years ago. Actually, yeah, at least, what is it, 2016, 2026 now? I was doing that a long time ago. Let's just say that. All right. And I learned some things. I still did. I learned some things about maybe using a few different tactics, putting some different metrics behind it. But the bottom line is, I've been doing that for a while and have maybe had shifted and slipped back. But that's an old strategy that I just need to bring forward in a fresh way for myself, right? And so that's the first example. The second example has been with me and some of my biz besties, as we call ourselves, these group of women that met. We met during the pandemic virtually. We're part of a large networking group, that private networking group. And we've all, scattered since then. That group no longer exists, but we have stayed connected. And a few of them in particular, I think it was like, if this is 2026, so this was probably what, 2023, 2024 for sure, and last year, where we were like, what is going on here? Like all of a sudden, it's like the market had shifted and people were recommending, all of the quote gurus were recommending to do things that I was like, why does that sound so familiar? And I realized I was like, well, it's because it's stuff I was doing in 2018. I was like, but I was doing that already. So now that's the thing to do. And I'm like, but I've been there, I've done that already. And so there were several of us having these conversations one on one with each other. And we were, joking, but literally serious about, oh, so in other words, I just need to go back to what I was doing in 2018. And all of this to say that some of the things that we used to do are not defunct, right? They were good sound strategies. They were good pieces of advice that we leaned on. They were things that worked for us, but we stopped doing them perhaps because, oh, well, that doesn't, we're moving forward. It's time to do something different. Different does not always mean better. That's a whole other different conversation. But also because we get pulled in. I own that I did, and I'm pretty strong-willed. But at the time, because there was so much going on, recognizing that I was getting pulled into what the gurus or the folks were saying, oh, we need to do this. You need to do this to be successful online. You need to do that in order to get new clients. All of these different things. Meanwhile, the stuff that I'm teaching people literally every day, I wasn't practicing for myself anymore. Crazy. I mean, just think about that. I'm up here teaching people how to build relationships for the long term, how to stay engaged, how to keep it relevant. And I literally was ignoring some of my own core, I won't say core values, but core strategies. Because someone was like, from the business perspective, you should probably be trying to do this other thing this other way. Nonsense. What is old is new again. And there was just nothing like seeing that video today to remind me of that. And here's some different things, when we are on a forward path and really want to get there, right? Doing things that seem to take us backwards or engaging in things that were from the past seems like it's taking us out of sync, or that it's, going to in some way pull us backwards. But the reality is, and oh my gosh, I had it with one of a good friend of mine down in Australia. We've had in-depth conversations about this. The reality is, what this means is you were probably ahead of the folks that you need to serve or work with, or whatever it is you're doing. You were already ahead of them. You're probably still ahead of them, and which is how and why you can teach, share, lead from that space, and that it's not taking you backwards in literally in a negative manner, but it's showing you, hey, you've been here, you've done this. Now let's lead other people forward in doing this. Let's utilize some of these strategies in today's world and market. What needs to be refreshed? How can it be updated? but it's not because it was ever bad to begin with, right? Um, so some of the highlights, when we're moving forward, requires, a look back. And so I've identified, I think, like 3 or 4 different things that just came up for me while thinking about this. The first one is, do not undervalue your past. Um, I just got like little chills running through my body when I said that, because there's so much there. There is so much to be said about not undervaluing your past in so many ways. I may have to come back to that. But the reality is that your past is the core of your foundation for the growth that you're experiencing today, right? And there are absolutely nuggets from those moments, from those experiences, from those projects that you can pull forward today and continue to build on. So don't think that just because, well, that was 10 years ago, that's not relevant. It's not true. It's simply not true. There's so much from our past that we can absolutely pull forward to utilize in today, in the projects, in the work, in the leadership that we're engaged in today. So don't undervalue it. Take a fresh look at it. Y'all know me. I don't have a journal in here with me today, but I am always about, you know what? Let me sit back and let's do a refresher. There have been moments when I was really frustrated about some things, whether it was with the business or whatever, where I literally had to go pull a journal and be like, what were those things that worked before that I was like, this was great. This was fantastic. Okay. What are those things from before that you are not doing today? Because if they were working before, why would they not be working today? And if you don't have a good answer to that, then you need to revisit it and recognize what are those core undercurrents that are still of value. I've done this numerous times. Like, I've done this so much that sometimes today I don't even start a fresh journal piece for that thought process. I go find the old ones and start there. Again, what is old is new again. Like, I know I've had this thought process before. Where was I when I thought before? What is still relevant? And pull that forward. Okay, so that's a regular practice. The second thing that I would say is looking back for guidance is not failure. Uh, how many things and words can I use on that? Oh my gosh. That's a whole other conversation about mindset, about blocking out the crap that we get from other people and things because of what's going on out there. Screw all that. Um, it's not failure to look backwards. There may have been some things that didn't work. Okay, fine. You tossed those probably already. And even with those things that didn't work then, it's like, well, but I'm in a different situation today. What would that look like if I tweaked it and utilized it today? Right? So looking backwards is not failure in order to move forward, right? Because somebody may say, well, I don't want to go back and look at that because that's old stuff and that's gonna seem like I really didn't make it, or I'm not really moving forward. You absolutely are. Um, I wrote that it's an assurance that you're not new to this, you're true to this. Like, you already know this, like I did with that video that I saw earlier today. I'm sitting there, I'm like, this sounds really familiar. It's like, yeah, because you started this something very similar almost 20 years ago. 15, 20, I don't know. I lose track. But a long time. Not yesterday, not last year, not 5 years ago. So the other thing about that is a new situation does not mean that you have to start everything over again, or start from scratch. That's where because that is so exhausting. Trust you me, I have been there, done that. And I'm like, what in the world was I thinking? Because when you really get to the heart of it, you didn't need to start from scratch. You recognize the foundation you already have with your work, with your skill set, whatever the thing is, and build from there. Do not start from scratch. Even when you change industries, and I talk about this when I'm working with some of my clients who are like, I'm sick of this thing. I need to go over here. So I gotta, work. I'm like, no, we're not starting from scratch. You're not starting from scratch. That's exhausting and it can be demoralizing. Rarely, unless there's some technical skill involved, rarely do you have to start from scratch. You can sit down, identify your transferable skills, the knowledge, the abilities you've gained, and now say, here's what I'm bringing to this new industry. The industry that is new. You are not new. The skills you have are not new, right? There are you already own all of these things, right? So it's like, what is already a part of who you are, who I am, that I can now bring forward into this new thing, right? Starting this, this new YouTube adventure. It's not the first time. I have, y'all, I will post it somewhere. I I have over 550 videos on YouTube. 550. I saw that and I was like, oh my God, where did that come from? Years, years. But the thing was, I wasn't utilizing it in the way that I intend to now with a more specific and direct purpose. I was using it as storage. I'm not even going to lie. Because I was utilizing a different platform to go live and all of that, and sending it off to my other social media platforms. And yes, it was going live on YouTube, but again, I wasn't doing anything deliberate with it. It was literally to make sure I had a secondary spot for storage that was easier to access. Own it. Now, because I have this whole other approach now where I'm being very deliberate about two things. Number one, changing the focus of my conversations and coming and utilizing YouTube first, right? It's not a secondary source or secondary platform for me. It is becoming an initial platform for me. Like that's a shift. And then secondly, not well, that gets to not using it as storage, but also changing the conversation, so that I can be able to speak even, uh, long form video, which I was doing already. Again, if you go check out any of my videos, I was already doing long form video. Again, for how long? Years. But I wasn't utilizing it to reach people from this platform. And it was very career driven, relationship building. This now will have still some of those elements of that. I'm absolutely going to talk about it. I mean, like, hello, it's what I do, right? And having the opportunity to now expound upon how some of these things affect me um, personally, in the backstory on some professional things that I never really shared. Like I have shared some of these stories, but uh not in this format. Most of the time people would get those conversations with me one on one, small group, if I was doing a private training, but not in this format. So that's how I'm bringing forward things that I've already been doing into a new format for me, not a new platform, not even new ideas in ways, but reformatting how I want to approach it and deliver it to the world. And this applies to you. So I don't care if you're, whether it's something in your business or it's whether in your professional career and you're like, I need to make some changes or I'm looking to make this transition. Guess what? All of it still applies. Bring what you already have forward, work from a strong foundation that you already have, tweak some things, and keep moving forward, right? Don't start from scratch, y'all. It's exhausting. It's exhausting physically, mentally, emotionally, all the things. Don't do it. Um, my third thing that was coming to mind is that, and this is a gardening analogy, y'all. So, if you follow me on Instagram or some other stuff, like, and you see my little baby here, I've got some new seedling, some new propagation things going. I'm all back into my gardening mode, and you are going to learn about that because all of it links together back into being creative and expressing myself in a way that I hadn't in a long time. That's for another day. Story for another day. But so here's the analogy is when you plant a seed in the soil, okay, you need light, you got to water it, take care of it. You can't expect stuff to just pop out. Like it doesn't happen that way. Even when you have some things that are seedlings that can pop through relatively quickly, let's say 5 to 7 days, you have to wait like that. There's still a waiting period before you can see from the upside what's going on. The things you can't see that are actually happening beneath the soil are, that seed where it's taking the light that's coming through and the water and the fertilizer, whatever, and it's growing roots and it's developing a system that's going to support it once it does come to the light. Y'all, that was something right there. Hello. This is why you don't give up on what you already did. It's like pulling up a seedling, deciding it wasn't coming fast enough, so you dig it up, and once you see that, it's, oh wait, it was rooting. If it's a baby seedling, like sometimes you can't replant that. It's not going to make it. You've exposed it, right? You've got to let those roots grow and don't undervalue what's going on beneath the surface that you can't see. So that means whatever it is you're working on, keep doing it. Even when you don't see something coming to fruition, you're like, this is on my nerves. When you're like, I'm making yet another call to find out about, this project, or what am I going to do? Like, keep not just planting the seed, but watering it, feeding it light, doing what it needs in order to grow so that eventually you will see the fruits of your labor and it will grow. And guess what? It doesn't stop there. You still have to engage, you still have to take action, you still have to do things so that what you see on the surface still can continue to live because you still got to feed those roots. That plant that you see once it breaks through is not magically there. There's an entire root system beneath that soil that is supporting that growth, and you have to continue to feed it. And this matters for you. This matters for me. I mean, I've had to realize that, right? Because sometimes you're like, what am I doing this for? I mean, like, really, what am I doing this for? Because there's a gap between, new clients. There's a gap between seeing some project that I'm working for come to fruition. Like, what does this mean? Take that as the time where things are working beneath the soil and it's about to come, break on through, and you're going to have some lovely growth that you can then see to add to the motivation and the inspiration, and knowing that, okay, yes, I can keep doing this, right? um you got to do the work, um and give it life by talking about it. We often don't acknowledge the power of sharing our stories, our dreams, our goals with other people. Because especially if you've been, at the height of some industry and all of that, then, something that looks like you're starting over is like, oh, this just is kind of shaming. Whatever. I am a licensed attorney with 30 years of legislative experience who's entered into a completely unrelated space, right? But trust you me, I'm utilizing a lot of the things. I won't say all, I caught myself from saying all. I'm utilizing a lot of the things that I um, learned along that way to feed into these current projects. I was doing executive training and leadership development for fun, y'all. For fun. My job was administrative, lobbying, legislative policy, all of that. But because I had that leadership title, I was speaking and being asked to speak to groups for years before I went out to do it on my own. Years. So don't undervalue yourself. Don't take it for granted. Don't consider some of those things as failure because you're having to go back to it. No, literally go back to it for inspiration to remind you, oh, yeah, I already know this. I just need to apply it in this new situation. And that has been so refreshing for me today, days past, days ahead, because, I'm building, I'm creating, I'm doing something fresh, utilizing the skills I already have, learning some new ones, and I'm excited about what's to come because it's here, right? And I want to always make sure to share that with other folks, which is part of this whole process. It's not just about me coming on and teaching, because I could have continued with my old format and done that. This is about, you know, okay, look, Patricia's talking real talk about some of this stuff. If she can do it, I can do it. And you can. All right. So, my uh, don't don't smother your own growth by hiding. That's a whole other comment all on its own. Don't smother your own growth by hiding. Oh, I think that's going to have to be its own conversation. That one may take a minute because I don't know where that one's going to go, but that's going to have to be its whole own conversation. Last point. Do not be afraid to step out onto new stages of your life. No, that's the fun. That's the exciting thing. People get stagnant and then think, oh, well, it's too late for me now. Nope, it's a lie. It's a lie. Do not believe it. Do you know there is research that has proven that businesses, most small businesses, entrepreneurs, or whatever, do not really take flight till after people are like in their late 40s and 50s. I think it's really 50s and on. What do you mean it's too late? Literally, when you're 25, when I think about, I didn't know crap when I was 25. I didn't know whatever, scared to death, just going whoosh. My 30s, I was definitely like, okay, yes, I'm here. But I also family came along and I'm just pushing through and doing all these things again. And then the 40s come where major transitions were happening. And it's like, oh my God, this is not what I planned and how I planned for it to happen. I didn't plan for this to happen for another 10 years. Guess what? Don't be afraid to take that next step. Don't be afraid to pursue that new position, that new goal. It's not, and here's the thing, it's not always about the professional career. Because trust you me, I've done it, I've been there. I'll talk about that at some point in time. There are aspects of some of that I would never go back to right now. Never. I enjoyed most of it, not some of it. Some of it was traumatizing, and it has served its purpose, and I ain't going back there. Ain't, right? So enjoy the opportunities to move forward, to explore new things. Um, Guess what? Being uncomfortable is a good thing sometimes. Probably most of the time. It means you're challenging yourself. It means you're being exposed to something that you're not used to, and that's okay, right? Because you have good, solid foundational things to bring forward with you to that new thing, whatever it might be, that can provide you with the, I won't say comfort's not the word but that I want to use, but can provide you with some sense of stability and guide you forward and knowing like, and the confidence, right? Like, okay, I can keep going. I can do this. All right. Um, so there we are. I've talked a little bit about some clients when they've moving forward into new areas of their life, and one of my gifts is being able to see it for them before they can see it. So I've learned I've had to taper because again, I'm ahead of them. I can see where they can be, the potential and the opportunities, but they have to learn to see it for themselves, right? And so that's why I love doing what I do, to help people see what is possible for them before they're able to see it for themselves and help guide them to that. Yeah. So don't give up on all that stuff that's old because so much of it is coming back. Go dig into your own little treasure chest and figure out what it is for you that you kind of blowing over or ignoring, and see how you can utilize in what you're doing today. Okay? Looking forward to talking to you again tomorrow. Check me out on the other platforms if you haven't been following me: LinkedIn, Instagram, uh, Facebook business page. All right? Take care. Talk again tomorrow. Bye.